All right, so are you ready to dive into this thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Because today we're talking about a real legend, the Porsche 550 Spyder.
It's a good one.
You sent over a ton of stuff for this one. Articles, historical records, auction results. I mean, wow.
Had to do it justice. Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like you really wanted to get the full picture on this car, and that's what we're going to try to do today.
for sure.
We're going to cover it all, racing dominance, the whole James Dean thing, and how it basically shaped Porsche as we know it.
Because it really did.
Yeah, get ready for some serious aha moments with this one.
It's a fascinating story.
So what I find really interesting about the 550 Spyder is that it wasn't just about speed.
No,
It was like Porsche was making a statement with this car, you know?
it was a huge shift for them going from modifying existing cars to building a pure race car from scratch.
Yeah, like a total game changer, right?
Absolutely huge implications for their future.
Okay, so let's set the stage a little.
Right.
It's the early 1950s, and Porsche's realizing they need to step up their game in the racing world. What was going on back then that led to this realization?
Well, back then, they were known for modifying production cars.
Like the 356.
Exactly. They'd soup them up for racing, and they were doing pretty well, but they were hitting a wall.
Literally.
Yet literally, they were being outpowered by bigger, heavier cars.
Makes sense.
They needed something totally different, something built for racing from the ground up.
And that's where the inspiration for the 550 Spyder comes in, right?
You got it.
I was reading about this guy, Walter Gluckler, who is building his own custom Porsche-powered race cars.
Oh yeah, Gluckler.
Tell me about that.
He was a Volkswagen dealer and a total car nut. He was basically building these amazing race cars using Porsche engines and parts, but with completely custom bodywork.
So cool.
Yeah, they were called Eigenbau, the German word for like homemade.
Eigenbau, okay.
And get this, they were actually beating the factory Porsches in some races.
Oh, wow. So Porsche was like taking notes from a fan?
Basically, it shows how open they were to new ideas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did they learn from these Eigenbau cars?
They saw that a light, agile car with a powerful engine could really compete even against bigger, heavier cars.
David and Goliath.
Exactly, and that's what they set out to create with the 550 Spyder.
And the rest is history. I guess 1953 Paris Motor Show boom, the 550 Spyder is born, Porsche's first purpose-built race car.
A real turning point for the company.
Yeah, it feels like such a big moment for them. What made this car so different from what they'd been doing?
It was a brand new design made specifically for racing.
From the ground up.
Yep, they went all in on lightweight materials, a mid-engine layout for perfect balance.
And that classic low-slung look.
This wasn't just a modified street car anymore. This was a serious race car.
And it didn't take long for it to prove itself. First race out the gate, the 1953 Nürburgring Eifel race, and bam, they win.
It made a statement.
What a debut. Did that surprise anyone, or was it obvious right away that this car was something special?
It definitely showed the world that Porsche was serious and that the 550 Spyder was a force to be reckoned with. But that win was just the beginning of a really impressive career.
Okay, so let's talk track record. Our sources say 95 victories, 75 class wins out of 370 races.
Not bad.
I mean, those numbers are insane. Are there any races that stand out as particularly legendary?
Oh, yeah, for
Really?
sure. One that comes to mind is the 1953 24 Hours of Le Mans. Two 550 Spyders take first and second in their class and even finish 15th and 16th overall.
Wait, so they were beating cars way bigger than them.
In an endurance race, no less. That's impressive.
Totally living up to that giant killer nickname.
For sure. Another big one was the 1954 Carrera Panamericana.
Oh, yeah, in Mexico.
Super grueling open road race. And the 550 Spyder takes another class win. It was such a big deal that Porsche decided to use the name Carrera for their high-performance models going forward.
No way. So that's where that name comes from?
Yep, directly inspired by the 550 Spyder's performance.
Yeah.
And there's one more you can't forget. The 1956 Targa Florio.
Right.
This time it is the 550A, the updated version, and it takes Porsche's first overall victory at a major international race.
Huge.
That win really cemented the 550's legacy and put Porsche on the map as a world-class racing team.
So it wasn't just a successful race car, it was a game changer for Porsche. Their whole image as a performance car maker.
100%. The 550 Spyder proved that Porsche could build a car that was not only incredibly fast, but also super reliable and adaptable. And you know what's really wild? People would actually drive these cars to the track, race them, and then drive them home.
What? You're kidding. So was street legal?
Yep. A real race car for the road. It really speaks to how well-designed the 550 Spyder was.
That's insane even for back then. So it wasn't just a stripped-down track monster. It could actually handle everyday driving, too.
Absolutely, it was the whole package.
Okay, so let's talk about what made this car so special mechanically. Even by today's standards, the 550 Spyder was an engineering marvel, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Let's get under the hood, so to speak.
All right, let's do it. So first off, there's that mid-engine layout we talked about.
Right.
Putting the engine in front of the rear axle gave it almost perfect weight distribution.
Ah, so that's the secret sauce for the giant killer.
Exactly. It wasn't about brute force, more like finesse and handling.
I bet that mid-engine setup wasn't so common back then.
It was pretty cutting edge, especially for a road-going sports car. And it definitely had its quirks.
How so?
While a mid-engine car can be a little tricky to handle at the limit, especially for someone who didn't really know what they were doing.
Right, like those stories you hear about mid-engine cars being a bit tail-happy.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
get a little too aggressive with throttle and things can get out of hand quickly.
But I guess in the right hands, that same trait translates into crazy responsiveness and agility.
You got it. Experienced drivers like the guys racing the 550 Spyder, they could really use that agility to their advantage. They could outmaneuver those bigger, less nimble cars.
So mid-engine layout check.
Yeah.
What else made the 550 Spyder such a performer? You mentioned something about the weight.
Yeah, lightweight construction was key. This car weighed in at around 1,200 pounds.
Wow, that's like half the weight of a modern sports car?
Less than some motorcycles even.
Yeah. Seriously, how'd they get it so light? Were they using some kind of crazy space-age materials?
Haha. Not quite space age, but they were definitely pushing the limits.
Yeah.
The body was all aluminum, hand-built by a company called Karosserie Weidenhausen.
Okay.
And the chassis was a tubular steel space frame. Super strong, but super light.
So basically cutting-edge tech combined with old-school craftsmanship.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
part of why these cars are so sought after today. And then there's the engine,
Oh yeah, that famous Furman engine.
the heart of the 550 Spyder. It was a 1.5-liter air-cooled flat-four with 4 overhead camshafts.
Okay, hold on. I know you've mentioned this engine before, but to be honest, that's a lot of technical stuff for me.
Sure.
Can you break it down? What
Yeah.
made the Furman engine so special?
Okay, so the 4 overhead camshafts meant they could control the valves really precisely, which meant more power and better efficiency.
Oh, okay.
And because it was air-cooled, it was simpler, more reliable, and lighter than a water-cooled engine with similar power.
Gotcha. More power, more efficiency, less weight. Sounds like the recipe for a winning race car.
Exactly. And, one of those original Furman engines recently sold at auction for
Heard about that.
$220,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that shows you how much history and engineering went into this car.
It's amazing that an engine designed over 70 years ago is still considered such a masterpiece.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we've got a lightweight car with a powerful, innovative engine. What else made the 550 Spyder stand out?
Yeah, what else?
Well, it also had a bunch of other technical features, like a 4-speed gearbox later upgraded to a 5-speed and a limited slip differential.
Okay, now you're just showing off. What's a limited slip differential? Remind me.
Haha. All right, so imagine you're going around a corner and one of your drive wheels starts to slip.
Okay.
A limited slip differential automatically sends power to the wheel that still has grip.
I see.
So it helps you stay in control and accelerate out of the corner more smoothly.
Oh, so it's like having traction control built in.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Especially important with a car as nimble as the 550 Spyder.
makes sense. So it wasn't just about handling. This thing could move.
Oh yeah, 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds.
Yeah, not bad for a car from the 50s.
Still pretty quick by today's standards. And with that special aerodynamic hardtop, it could hit a top speed of around 124 miles per hour.
So it could handle both the twisty stuff and the high-speed sections.
Definitely. And remember, people were driving these cars to and from the track.
It's crazy to picture that.
Imagine seeing a 550 Spyder cruising down the highway on its way to a race.
Yeah, that's wild.
It really shows how versatile this car was. A true sports car that was just as happy on the open road as it was on the track.
It's awesome that it wasn't just a race car for the pros. Everyday enthusiasts could enjoy it too.
That accessibility was a huge part of its appeal.
But when most people think about the 550 Spyder, there's one story that always comes up.
Yeah, James Dean.
It's a tragic event that's kind of become part of the car's legend.
For sure.
So for those who might not know the whole story, can you give us the rundown?
Well, in 1955, James Dean was at the peak of his career, and he was driving his 550 Spyder, which he had nicknamed Little Bastard.
Right.
And sadly, he was involved in a fatal accident.
It's a story that I think has really stuck with people, even those who aren't necessarily car enthusiasts.
Yeah, it's become a part of the car's history.
I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think this event kind of shaped the 550 Spyder's legacy?
It's tough to say for sure, but I think Dean's death definitely added a certain mystique to the car.
Right.
It became associated with this idea of rebellion living on the edge, you know?
It's interesting because it seems like his personality and the car's image really complemented each other.
For sure, they both had this raw, untamed energy.
Exactly. Do you think that's why the story has resonated for so long?
I think so. The 550 Spyder was already a really desirable car,
Right.
but Dean's connection to it made it even more significant.
Like a cultural icon.
Yeah, it's almost like the car became this symbol of both the excitement and the danger of living life in the fast lane.
And that symbolism has really inspired artists, musicians, filmmakers. It's like the 550 Spyder has gone beyond just being a car.
Totally. It's taken on a life of its own, almost mythical.
But at the end of the day, it's still an amazing piece of engineering.
Oh, absolutely.
I got it.
A car that really pushed the boundaries of performance and handling.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the stories and the imagery, but we can't forget that this was a truly groundbreaking car. What kind of impact did its success have on Porsche as a company?
The 550 Spyder's wins weren't just about winning races. They proved that Porsche could build world-class sports cars.
Yeah.
It established their reputation for performance and innovation, a reputation that they still have today.
When you think about some of their most iconic models, the 718, the 911, do you see the 550 Spyder's DNA in those cars?
Absolutely. The lightweight construction, the
Yeah.
focus on aerodynamics, the pursuit of that perfect driving experience.
It's like the 550 Spyder laid out the blueprint for what a Porsche sports car should be.
Exactly. Agile, powerful, and fun to drive.
And it wasn't just about raw horsepower.
Nope. The 550 Spyder showed how important balance, finesse, and driver connection were. And those have become hallmarks of the Porsche driving experience.
It's pretty amazing how a car from over 70 years ago can still feel so relevant today. Why do you think the 550 Spyder continues to capture people's imaginations?
I think it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
The design is just timeless. It's got that racing pedigree. Of course, there's the James Dean story.
Yeah.
But there's also something deeper, I think. The 550 Spyder represents a kind of purity of purpose, a focus on the core elements of driving that goes beyond any particular era.
Like it embodies a philosophy that resonates with true car enthusiasts.
Right. The idea that driving is about more than just getting around. It's about the connection between you and the car, the thrill of pushing it to its limits.
And that's something that still inspires people today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about all those people building their own replicas of the 550 Spyder or restoring originals.
It's like they're not just rebuilding cars, they're reconnecting with a certain time, a certain ideal of what driving can be.
Exactly. And that brings up an important point. The 550 Spyder was designed to be driven, not just looked at. It wasn't meant to sit in a museum or a garage. It was meant to be out on the road, being pushed to its limits, bringing joy to the driver and anyone lucky enough to see it.
That's a great way to put it. I think our listener will walk away from this deep dive with a whole new understanding of the Porsche 550 Spyder.
I hope so.
Not just as a car, but as a symbol of innovation, performance, and that passion for driving that never gets old.
It's been awesome exploring this car with you.
Likewise, so to all our listeners out there, maybe this will inspire you to go out and find your own automotive adventure.
Yeah, get behind the wheel of a car that truly excites you.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Porsche 550 Spyder. We hope you enjoyed the ride.